So I think through this process, God has been working deeply in my soul when it comes to surrendering fully and living a life. I'm stealing this phrase from our pastor, but living a life with your yes on the table.
We are super excited to introduce you to our 300 Sons for City Soleil campaign. As you can see, we have these blank canvases here, and the beautiful thing that's gonna happen is we're gonna take these suns and we are actually literally gonna build a piece of art that is a sunrise that represents all of you coming together for the kiddos that we adore in City Soleil. So it's $25 a month commitment, and every single one of them comes together and makes a huge impact. We cannot wait to see who joins the Upstream family. So for people that don't know you, like obviously I know you, for people that don't know you, maybe just quick introduce yourself, who you are, your family, blah, 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 blah.
All right. Well, my name's Kaydra Moses, and I have 3 kids. I have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an 11-month-old. She'll be 1 next month. I have a husband who is a manager of a food company here in town. I also teach dance 2 nights a week, and I do 10 hours of admin work. That's at home work. So I do that at home, and then I teach in studio 2 nights a week. And we've got a 130-pound Mastiff that is currently barking. So hopefully you can't hear her.
I can't hear her, but okay, I totally understand the Mastiff life. Yesterday, Joe sent me a video of Tony, and he was barking at the counter because Joe had eggs that were like cooling off on the counter, and he was barking like, I want the eggs.
Right.
And it's like his nose is like on the counter. So you're like, it's like a horse in the kitchen.
Yep. Literally. Della sits in her high chair and eats, and Bailey's head is like literally right where Della's head is. And so Della does like 1 bite for Bailey, 1 bite for me. And I'm like, that's gross, but whatever.
It's gross, but cute. That is hilarious.
Exactly.
That's hilarious. Okay. So for people that may not know, what it means to live life upstream, obviously for us, it just means kind of living life against the flow, against maybe what cultural norm says that we're supposed to do. And of course, for Jesus. How would you say, like, in your day-to-day life that you see yourself living upstream?
So day to day, I feel like, I think one of the things that Cody's my husband, just have really centered our life around is always trying to live life, daily life, with a missional view. So not only am I going into today thinking about my family and my family's needs and my needs, but I just have this constant, almost eye open, right? For opportunities or for places to step in and say an encouraging word or to lend a hand or to help a friend or, maybe there's a situation where somebody needs a couple extra bucks, or needs a ride or needs, whatever. I think daily, that's really how we try to live our lives, is just with open hands and open eyes, I think is how we try to live. And then something that Cody and I have chosen to do is we actually live in my parents' basement. My mother had a severe stroke. Oh goodness, 3.5 years ago now.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's been that long. I was just talking to a woman that I met at church a couple days ago, and she was talking about a stroke that she had in January. And I was telling her about your mom, and I'm like, I cannot believe that it's been that long.
Yeah.
So you guys, for people that don't know, you guys were living there already because you were saving to go live in Haiti.
To Haiti, yes.
And then your mom had a stroke in the midst of that kind so planning. Yes. And also like a baby or two kind of came.
Yeah, there was a surprise baby in there.
That's so funny.
We kind of just ended up here. But so we were already living in my parents' basement when my mom's stroke happened. So then when my mom's stroke happened, and it was severe, like she's forever altered. And at the beginning needed a lot of assistance with just daily care and eating and that kind of stuff. So it was kind of natural for me to just start helping out with that because I was in the basement. And at the time, I didn't have a job outside of being a mom. So,
and it's who you are too. Like
Yes.
You're just like a get her done person. I remember when, like you were my assistant because, obviously you've been in my life since you were a teenager before that actually. But I remember telling Joe when you were like 15, like, if Kaydra was an adult, she would like for sure be my best friend. And so I'm like, so I would have to like make up things so that I could hang out with you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Like let's, you can be my assistant.
Yeah. Which I probably wasn't ever very good at.
Yeah, no, you did good. You did good.
I did it, I made it work. So we were living in my parents' basement and I just took over the role of caretaker for my mom. And so when Cody and I moved in here, we said 6 months. Well, we're 5.5 years later and we're still in the basement. So
it's been a little while.
It's been a while. We brought all 3 of our babies home here to the basement. We've turned the basement into a full 3-bedroom apartment. So just been a lot of transitions, but there have been many seasons where Cody and I have sat down and really said, like, is this best? Is this best for us? Is this best for my parents? Is this best I have a teenage sister who lives upstairs, we would get pushback from a lot of people. A lot of people would say, well, your marriage isn't going to thrive down there. You're not going to be able to develop as a family down there. You're never going to know how to be your own, person, marriage, family, if you just are living in the basement all the time, and I think a lot of people think too, that it's a financial decision, which let's be honest, rent free, great. But we make enough money. We could own a home if we wanted to, but we feel a call to be in this basement, for one reason or another.
I feel like it's such an American mindset too. Because in everywhere that we've been outside of America, Haiti, Africa, all these different places, it's whole families living together and definitely not having as much space as you have and enough separation or the same amount of separation that you guys have. It's just life. Like it's grandmas living in the house, aunties, uncles, everybody lives together and that's good. And it's normal and it's wonderful. And yet in America, it's like somehow frowned down upon. And I think, like obviously I know like you've been in our life for a long time. So I know that of the seasons where you're like, like, should we be getting out of here? Do we want to move into an apartment? Obviously you thought you were going to Haiti. But I just love like watching over the years, like God's providence in it. And that, that you guys were there when everything happened, with your mom and just, you were there when you find out like, oh, great, cool. The Rogalskis are leaving Haiti and everything's insane in Haiti. And our plans are totally different now. And now we're still in the basement. So like, what would you say? Like, obviously people have things to say about it over the years. I know that world. People have something to say about everything that we do too. What like challenges have you faced? Like you're trying to live upstream. Obviously certain things of your life are very countercultural. How do you overcome those things? How do you look past those things and just like stay on the path that you guys know God's got you on?
Right. Yeah. So for me, it's a lot of kind of what you were just speaking to, a lot of self-reflection, right? So like, let's say someone says something to me and says, hey, are you sure this is the right thing for you? Like, isn't that going to affect your marriage? Isn't that going to affect whatever? Sometimes I'll sit in that and I'll say, okay, where is this opinion coming from? Is this opinion truth of Christ? Is it based in biblical understanding? Is it based in biblical truths? Or is this someone's personal opinion? Right. And then if it's someone's personal opinion, which normally it is, I think I just try to just pray through it and just say, Lord, like, is this you trying to bring something to my eyes that maybe is true, right? Because sometimes someone is going to feel like they should say something or speak something into your life, and it is something to maybe take into consideration. But so yeah, I think I just always try to take to the Lord and just say, God, like, what is this? Is this something I'm supposed to be in tune to? Is this something you're trying to speak to me? Or is this just an opinion that I need to let go? And then I take it from there. A lot of times it is an American opinion, a lot of times, or it is, American, whatever, cultural. I think Cody and I live our lives so much against cultural norms that a lot of maybe concerns or things that come into our lives a lot of times are culturally based.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think I just really try to ground pretty much everything I do in prayer and in biblical, what's the word I'm looking for?
Just foundation,
foundation. That's what I'm looking for. Like, what does God say about this?
Yes.
And
if he doesn't say anything,
up with his word.
Yeah. And if he doesn't say anything, then it comes down to like your convictions and what you feel with your husband is the right thing for you guys and for your family.
Yep. And I steal this from you a lot. You and Joe always say, follow the peace. And I just feel like, in some situations, sometimes God's calling us to do things that don't feel peaceful. That's real too.
Totally.
There have been situations in my life where I felt the clear calling of Christ and I've literally wept on my floor because I was so terrified to say yes, but even in that state, there's just deep sense of I'm supposed to say yes to this, and I think that comes from a lot of prayer and reflection and communion and
just like being with Jesus.
Communication.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So since we're kind of already talking about this idea of like saying yes to things that are scary, obviously you and I both have said yes to some things that are really scary.
Yeah.
And then both of us are in a situation where it doesn't look at all like we thought it was, right? Like for me, we literally sold our house, gave away everything we had, moved to Haiti. We're waiting for you guys to get there. Life changes. Haiti, and you can see now, like, it's still just like, it's not conducive to what we were planning on doing. Right. And I know for me, we've been back in the States for a year and a half. And I still am I like sometimes mourning that like, wait a minute, God, like I thought that this is what we were doing. I said, okay, I was scared to say, okay, I did it anyway. And now like this, obviously you're in a similar situation. How do you reconcile that? Like how do you work that out when you are following the peace and then God's like, okay, cool, thanks. But this is actually what's going to happen. How do you wrestle through some of that stuff?
So we had planned on moving to Haiti with you guys, twice actually.
Twice, yeah, which is how we ended up there the first time.
Yes, you guys ended up there the first time around. And then the second time we thought we were going to go with you guys or meet you guys. You were there already. We were going to come down. And I just remember all within 24 hours, you guys messaged us and were like, hey, we're back in the States. Things aren't super safe right now. So that's happening. I found out I was pregnant extremely unexpectedly. And in a situation where I was going to require extra doctoring through the pregnancy. And then, COVID hit 7 days later.
Yes. So like we came back.
Literally.
Yeah. Like we came back. There's all this violence and craziness going on in Haiti. And we're trying to figure out what on earth is happening. Yep. And then we get back and it's like masks start popping up in the airport. And we're like, what's going on? Like, and everything changed. Everything has changed for the whole world. And then in the middle of all of that, you guys are going through the confusion and heartbreak of everything changing. And so are we. And it's just like, what on earth is happening? And I remember calling you guys and like telling you that we left and that we weren't going to stay or move back was one of the hardest calls that I've ever made, because I knew how heartbreaking it was for me. And I knew that it would be heartbreaking for you. And I just felt this. And at the same time, I felt this massive responsibility to your family because I love you guys so much. We love you guys so much that we were like, we have to do what's wise for them also and lead with wisdom and not out of fear. And trying to balance all of that was so difficult. But I just remember contacting you and just being devastated. And when you told me that you found out you were pregnant, not only I felt like it was like a kiss from the Lord to you guys, but it was to me too. because it made me just feel like, okay, God, like you see this too, you know, like you knew that was going to happen. What if I would have stayed a little bit longer and y'all ended up there? And then, you know, and so I just like, I just remember that being so like monumental to me, just feeling like, thank you, Lord, that you care about those details too. Is it still confusing? And like, what are we doing? And why are we in this house in this state? I mean, granted, we're in Texas now, like everything's crazy, but anyways, so yeah. Okay. So pick that back there. Like you guys find out you're pregnant. And obviously it was a difficult time because at that point you guys were a year out from your mom having a stroke. That's 2 years ago, right?
That was just a year ago. Well, no, it would have been like a year. Yeah, almost 2 years ago, I guess.
Almost that was 2 years ago. So yeah, she was like
that's crazy.
Yeah, she was going to be like a year and a half out from her stroke. So I knew that was a big decision for you too. Like leaving your mom and leaving your dad, who obviously was dealing with, and I'm sure in many ways still is, the confusion and heartbreak of that situation. And just like, what are we supposed to do? And really following the piece. You feel like the piece is in Haiti, going there, and then everything changes. Okay, so pick up there.
Yeah, so anyways, obviously not going to Haiti anymore, right? You guys are in the States. I'm pregnant. I need doctoring. COVID hit. So
crazy.
I just remember, I mean, I think for a little while, you're kind of just in the chaos, right? Of like, oh, I'm unexpectedly pregnant and COVID and what are we doing? And what is this life and whatever. But then I remember things kind of settling down. And
Cody had quit his job, right?
Cody within 24 hours, we found out you guys were here. I was pregnant and Cody got a random job offer. We were like, what the heck? Like, where did this come from?
Because he quit his job to go to Haiti.
Yes, exactly. So, and then he got this random job offer, which then he ended up taking the job and then actually lost the job because of COVID, but then got it back. So whatever. But so anyways, I just remember just like things kind of settling down a little bit and me just being like, Lord, like, what the heck? You know what I mean? Like, so we had planned on going to Haiti once before and it didn't work out for certain reasons. And that was heartbreaking for me then. And I think I really held maybe even some resentment towards God because of that, you know? And then, so then when this second time came around, you and Joe came to us and asked, I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. You know what I mean? I'm not. And I think it was kind of a self-protection thing because I do long for my life to be mission focused. And I really do still feel a call to the island of Haiti and the people there. And Cody and I have a deep love for Haiti. That is just beyond words. So anyways, when it came around the second time, I was very resistant. I was like, I don't want to get my hopes up again. I don't want to do it again. But we felt like we were supposed to say yes. We said yes. We dove in. We started raising money, all the things, and then it fell apart. And so I remember it didn't fall apart. God had other plans. In
our minds, it fell apart.
It felt like it fell apart.
Totally.
So I just remember being like, Lord, like, what the heck? Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, I say yes, we follow through, doesn't happen. Like, what's going on here? And I think he even still is revealing to me that there's like the pain, right? Or the situation you may be going through, or the no you've had to surrender to, or the situation God's placed in your life that you've had to say yes to, or you're having to grapple with. A lot of times it has so much, I don't like that wording. It has deeper meaning and deeper value in your life than you can see or feel on the surface sometimes, right?
Sure.
So I think through this process, God has been working deeply in my soul when it comes to surrendering fully and living a life. I'm stealing this phrase from our pastor, but living a life with your yes on the table. Like my yes is on the table and it is ready for whenever Christ is called, right? So I'm a control freak.
Me too.
Don't
I
like
didn't
being
realize
told
it.
what to do.
Yeah. I knew that I was, but I
Yes.
didn't necessarily realize to the extent. And
Uh-huh.
I think one of the things that I've really realized lately, we obviously just were in Haiti. It was the first time I had been back in a year and a half. And it was like deeply emotional for me. And it really revealed some things that I didn't know that I was dealing with, including resentment. Like, Lord, are you kidding me? I mean, like, obviously looking at this now, it's like, oh, that's totally pride. But looking at it and being like, Lord, are you kidding? Like, I moved away from my kid, 2 of them, I sold my house, gave away everything we own. We literally go to just do whatever it is that you want us to do. And now this is our life. It's falling apart. Like, what is happening? And I think for me, I'm learning more and more that I think I can be easily misunderstood because I'm outspoken and I'm tough on the exterior and I'm just like a get her done person, maybe not in this season of my life as much, but like my personality is kind of forward, that I think that it can be mistaken because I actually am like really, really soft inside. And I think that I, for a while now, have tried to protect that by just being tough it through. Look, we made it through another thing. And I've found myself in a season where I can't muscle through. Like I can't just Sammy Rogelski it. I'm, when everything changes and everything is stripped away, which the whole world is kind of going through it in some way or another with COVID, right? Like it's affected everyone. And then in the midst of that, we're also going through the things that we're going through. And I've really realized like that my yes maybe isn't on the table, like you said, like that I feel like I'm surrendered because I'm doing what I think God wants me to do. But then when the situation changes, then I'm mad at him. Well, that's not really surrender. That's surrender to like my agreement to your plan, not necessarily like me actually agreeing with your plan is best, even if it sometimes stinks for me,
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. Your yes on the table. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So through some really hard things in life, and one of them being Haiti being kind of, Christ saying no 2 times in our life, and some other things, our adoption process with our daughter was insane. Crazy. And we learned so much through all of that. And then obviously my mother's stroke, which is, I just think God's really,
it's a lot. You guys have gone through a lot in a short amount of time, and a lot of devastating things.
Yes. A lot of really big, really hard, stuff. I think like, I just have come to the realization that like Christ is who he says he is, and his word is true always. And so when I look at the passages that say, they talk about how trials are meant to, of course, my brain is like, blanking on the actual scriptures, but pretty much trials are meant to better us, right? Yeah. Like there is pain, right? And there is suffering, but the suffering is there to teach us and to mold us and to grow us and to ultimately bring us to a higher level of understanding and communion and love for Christ.
And to be more like him, I think for me, I noticed that, many times the things that are the most difficult in your life are the things that produce the most beautiful fruit. Yeah. Because you're so dang squeezed, like there is no other option but him,
Yep. Yeah.
So how do you reconcile okay, obviously in your world, your plan that you thought was the plan that God had with you, was to be currently, living in full-time missions in another country, which obviously, like you said, we can live missionally every day of our life. The way that we talk to people at the grocery store, the way that we show up for our friends and our family, just there's a million ways you can live on mission. Obviously, we're talking about international missions full-time is what we thought we were both going to be doing right now. And obviously you're in a different life stage than me because your kids are younger than mine.
Yep.
And so your world is really wrapped up in littles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously not what, I mean, obviously you knew that they were going to be with you in Haiti, but you'd be doing something very different, right?
Yep.
So how do you walk that out for like the average mom who thinks I should be doing this? I would like to be doing this. This is where I feel led to do. But yet God is saying not right now, right? Because obviously there's some women that can do other things, you know, beside whatever, instead of full-time mom. And that's cool. Like whatever it is that God has for them. But for you and for many other people, and for me for a very long time, straight up mom is number one role right now. Yeah. How do you reconcile that when you think it's supposed to be one way and you really like prayerfully, like God said you were going to be doing this. And right now you're in the midst of diapers and puke and transporting kids to and from school and sports and, you know, all of the things that are kind of the American life that you weren't thinking you were going to be living. How do you find purpose in that? How do you be okay with that?
Yeah. So I think one thing that God's really been showing me through this season specifically, and really, I would say even in the last 6 months, is, again, our culture, right, is so focused on right now, the now or never, right? Like, I feel like everything you see on social media and whatever it may be, whatever platform you're on, is just like, stop waiting, do it now. There's no time to waste. Like, you don't have forever, like all these things, which is that true? Yeah, we do live a short life here on earth. Yeah. We do. Yes. And we do need to be purposeful with our decisions, and we need to go after things we want and desire. But I think that's created in me almost this like anxiety, right? It really is an anxiety in me that being still and being present in the season I'm in is bad, right? Because
which is wrong. It's such a lie from Satan. It's such a way to keep moms from focusing on. Obviously I'm ahead of you, right? Because I have a kid that's going to be 21 next month. I have one that's 20 today. You know, I have one that's a senior in high school, is trying to go to college next year. I mean, I'm just at a different life stage as far as kids go. But I can honestly look at my kids and they are my greatest accomplishment. No matter if I run the coolest organization in the world or have the best business or the most people who follow me, who cares? At the end of the day, the greatest accomplishment of my life is that I've given my children my time, that I have made sure that they know that they're loved, that I have taught them about Jesus. Failing every day, absolutely. Yeah, but it's like somehow we're taught that is not enough. Yep. And that's so not true. Yes. So not true. Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like God's just been saying to me, like my oldest is 5, right? But I would say he's already 5.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen?
How is he,
you know?
Yes.
I have an almost 1-year-old, and I literally feel like I gave birth to her 2 weeks ago. Yes. Like, truly. So
totally. I'm having a grandbaby, and I know. Like, I pull out like stuff from when Callista was a baby, because obviously it's her birthday, not Ayana's. But I pull out this stuff, and I'm like, it's her baby shoes and the stick I peed on to find out I was pregnant. And I'm like, how is she 20? How is Ayana 21 next month? And how do I have a grandchild coming into the world? Because I still feel like I'm 20. Like, what, what is happening? So like you said, like there is this like urgency, but there's also not, because this time has flown by. Yes. And it's a lot to think about. But you have a 1-year-old. Yeah. A 5-year-old. How old is Arrow now?
4. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So 4, 5, and almost 1.
A couple days ago, Austin, like, I want to see the kids. Can you show me? So we were like stalking your social media. He's like, I can't believe Luke is that big. You know,
I know. He's huge. He's huge. So I feel like God's just really been saying like, so like, I'm only 26. I had kids very young.
You and me both.
So I'm only 26. So I just feel like I've just had this sense of like, your kids are going to be here for whatever it is, 18 years, if we're lucky. You know what I mean? Maybe a little bit longer. You never know. 18 years. I'm already 5 years into that 18 years. And after my youngest is 18, God willing, I will still have a lot of life left. You know, I'm going to be able to do a lot of things after they're out of my home. And so I think he's just been really speaking to my heart that I am I need to just slow down in this season, and I need to be present with my kids. Now, in that's revealed a lot of, I would say, selfishness in me, right? Because the more present you are with your kids, the more you see your sin, you know, the more
like
present
being a mom and a wife, it really does reveal the worst parts of you, right?
Sure does. Yeah. And so I think the way I really just truly feel like I have a calling right now to these three little humans. Like, they are, outside of Christ in my marriage, they are my priority, right? And if that means I need to right now in this season say no to some fun girls' nights, or to maybe even a outreach opportunity, you know, that kind of thing. I need to focus on these three little people and teach them and show them, because I truly believe our best teacher as a parent is just being a model of everything. You know, we are trying to show them what it means to love each other, what it means to love people, what it means to trust Christ in the pain, or to pray for forgiveness, or to be able to forgive, to be able to include someone that maybe isn't easy to include all of the time, to give things that maybe we feel like we have the right to hold on to. Just all these things that I truly value as a person. I just want them to see. And now that does play into, do Cody and I still look for opportunities to give back in the community and for little missions opportunities here and there? Yeah, because we want our kids to see us doing those things too.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah, there's a balance.
But my first priority is them. And for a long time, that was really, really, really hard for me. Because I just had always had really big visions for my life. If I'm going to be honest, you know, I felt like I was going to do a lot of stuff and go a lot of places and not be living in a basement in Wisconsin. Like, I just thought, you know,
you could always come to Texas. Like, we could make room for you.
We need to make it out there, at least for a visit. You know, so surrendering to this call has not been easy. Yeah. Like, this is not my natural bent as a person.
For sure. I know you enough to know that is so true. So what advice would you give to people? So obviously there's moms out there, like, right, everybody has a different calling. Everybody has a different perspective. I have zero judgment for a mom that feels called to be in the workplace full time, or what, like, that's cool. Do your thing.
Yes.
But for the people who feel called to be home as their primary thing, and their kids, because their home is their main focus, what advice would you give to a mom who knows that that's what God has for them, but they're wrestling through that, like, that tension? That, like you said, like, because we have our own, especially certain personality types. We have our own crap we want to do. We have our own ideas for our life and all of those things. So what advice, like, what would you say to somebody who might be at home, you know, nursing a baby, hair is crazy, you know, gets interrupted on the podcast, life is nuts, you know, the school calling, all these different things. What would you say to them?
Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, always give yourself grace, because I feel like, especially in those seasons as a mother, really motherhood across the board, we're so hard on ourselves, right? And so I think a lot of, like, at least for me, a lot of the thinking, well, I should be doing this, or I thought I was going to do that, or what, I kind of want to be doing that, not this. It kind of turns into this, like, guilt cycle almost, right? Like, almost I feel guilty, or I feel maybe even some anger, you know, whatever. So I think just give yourself permission to feel the things, right? You've got to feel it. You've got to acknowledge it. You've got to kind of speak it out so that you can start wrestling through what that means for your life. So I think grace always for yourself
and for each other, right? Because wouldn't you say like moms are sometimes the hardest on each other?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, just the opinions. Like Ayana hasn't even had the baby yet. Woo. And she's messaged me like, Mom, somebody said this and somebody said this and somebody said that. And I'm like, baby, get ready for it. But at the end of the day, like you got to do what you feel God's leading you to do and what you and your husband 100%. Feel like you're led to do. And you can't worry about if other people think that you're doing the diapering right or the formula versus breast right. Or, there's a million different things. Gentle parenting versus, it's everywhere. So even grace for each other.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah.
But for yourself for sure.
Grace for yourself. And then I would say really do some deep reflecting, thinking, praying on, I think, how do I want to word it? Because there is balance, right? And especially if you are a person who longs to maybe do some, in quotes, bigger things, right? Than what feels like being at home with your kids, there's balance. Like I don't thrive. My soul isn't necessarily fed from coloring with my 4-year-old. You know what I mean? Like that's not, I don't just like come alive when I'm coloring with my 4-year-old, right?
Yes, girl, I hear you.
So Cody and I are always looking for small places that is a doable option for us to do some ministry outside the home because our souls thrive off of loving other people like we just do. And so, we're on, it's called the Mercy Justice League at our church, and we work closely with foster kids and foster families and safe families. And then we've also been able to be really involved with helping some of the Afghan refugees who have been here in the area. So we've been able to plug into that, and we're able to minister and show Christ and show love and be the hands and feet when we can, when it works. So I would say, look for something like that you can every now and then jump into, right? Because you do need to do the things that do feed your soul, right? That enables me, right, to be able to get to do those little bits here and there when I have the time, when I can find the babysitter. That feeds me and is able to, then I'm able to find more peace in the coloring and in the Star Wars play and in the watching, whatever it is.
Just the mundane. What we would maybe consider mundane.
Yes. And then also, I think a lot of prayer too of Lord, like, let me find peace in season, even though maybe this season isn't what my deepest soul like longs for, right? And my deepest soul does long for my children to know Christ. So I think that too, just working through those emotions. I think being honest with your spouse, having conversations with your spouse, having conversations with other moms, with other people, talking it out is always good. And then it really comes back to just a lot of prayer and surrender, a lot of prayer and surrender, which is really hard. And I think is going to look slightly different for everybody, and you've got to just be willing to, I think, talk about and work through the hard so that you can find the peace, you can find the joy, you can find the excitement in whatever it is that you are being called to do at the time.
Yeah. It reminds me of the verse that says, like, do everything that you're doing as if you're doing it unto the Lord. And I just remember so many times in my life where, Joe would be out doing things and Joe would be out, kind of living that missional life and working and pastoring and just all of those things. And I would be, mom chauffeur, and I would be, sometimes for sure my kids ate cereal for dinner, but cooking and cleaning and doing the laundry and doing this and just, there were times where I had to be like, okay, like I'm going to just cook this dinner like I'm doing it for Jesus, because right now I really don't feel like doing it, and I think one thing I think that's so cool that I look back on, I remember when we were back in Wisconsin before we moved back to Haiti and then of course on to Texas, I just remember being like very overloaded by my mom load, right? Like Joe was gone a lot, traveling with work. Our kids were crazy busy. Life was insane. And I remember Joe bumping into Julie Harris at the Y and her saying like, you guys have a lot of kids. You must have a lot of laundry. And Joe was like, oh yeah. And she's like, would Sammy ever let me help or does she want help? Well, I'm controlling. Okay. I don't do my own laundry half the time, but when I do, I want it a certain way. I want my shirts hung a certain way. I put them in the closet a certain way. Like when it's done right, it's done how I want it, right? And I really wrestled with that because Julie, the godsend of a woman she is, she'd come and everything will be hung different. Cool, whatever. And I remember the first couple times being like, I don't know if I like this. And then it became this part of my life that I will ever be thankful for. And it was such in my world, a huge act. I mean, she would come multiple times a week, pick up my laundry and take it home and do the laundry and bring it back and hang it in our closets, however she wanted, whatever, that's fine. And in her world, it was like, I just love this family. I like doing laundry. It's therapeutic for me. I'm going to help out. But, and it was living on mission in a way that maybe a lot of people don't even think, but for me, it was huge. I mean, it took off like such a burden for me. And it just reminds me that like everything that we do can be mission. And it took this mom knowing, hey, I had one kid and I know that the laundry was a lot. I can't even imagine what Sammy's got going on. Like I'm going to come alongside her and help with that.
Yes.
And now she's, you know, just part of the family afar.
Right. But, exactly. Yes.
I think just we sometimes can think that, you know, the pastor on stage, the worship team on stage, the people that are living in Haiti, the people that are doing this, all these different people, that is missional living. And like you said at the beginning, missional living can be coloring with our kids. It can be doing laundry for somebody else. It can be dropping off a coffee at your girlfriend's house because you know she is struggling big. It can be just telling somebody like, hey, keep nursing that baby. You've got this. You know, like there's so many ways that that we can live purposefully and help others to do the same thing. So, okay, what, like in the midst of all of it, what makes living life upstream worth it to you?
Man, I'm just not sure there's any other way to live.
Seriously.
To say,
no, that's true.
I think I just keep going back to like, God has me in this really weird phase of, it's so cheesy and it's one of those like stereotypical church phrases you would say, right? But is my head knowledge, my heart knowledge, right? And I hate it. It's so cheesy, right? Whatever.
Yeah, but so true.
The 12-inch journey, you know, from your head to your heart. So anyways, I just keep going back to, man, if I believe Christ is who he says he is, if I believe the words that he has said are true, and that's the way I should be living my life, then like, why would I do anything else? Right? Because anything else outside of that's not going to probably turn out great, you know? And I mean, even Christ promises that there's going to be pain, right? Even a walk with Christ is going to be hard. And it's
I would say probably more hard because you live in your life for Jesus, you have an adversary. It's not just flesh and blood over here. It's a real, like you're really trying to live purposefully, live on mission, live to see other people saved, live to love others and try and be as much like Jesus as you can. There's a real live enemy and he's not giving up. And sometimes I think we forget that. Like, or we think like, oh, we got through that and that was really hard. Okay, Satan must be done trying to get after us.
Right. No.
And the reality is he never stops. He just changes tactics.
He's just hanging out behind a bush, ready to pounce on the next thing.
Yes, for sure.
He knows he can get you with.
For sure.
I would say, so super practically, I would say what makes it worth it for me is, so I truly believe Cody and I live our lives upstream and we try so hard to love on the people around us and to be there for the people around us and to just pour into even our community. And I've seen firsthand how that then I mean, maybe in a selfish way, but also in a God-given way, blesses us back.
Absolutely.
I unexpectedly, my appendix almost burst inside of me like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
I was literally at church in the front row, and I all of a sudden felt like someone was shoving a fiery knife into my stomach. And so I just walked out into the sanctuary in my church weeping. And guess what? There were women in that sanctuary that knew me and loved me and helped me get my babies to my car because I couldn't carry my 25-pound baby because I was in so much pain, and and one of them took Della because she knew I can't take care of this baby right now. I can barely walk. She took the diaper bag. She took my baby. I trusted her because I know her, because I had poured into that relationship. And I had people bring me groceries. I had people clean my house. I had people, because I was in pain and I had surgery and whatever. So very practically in your life, pouring into relationships in a Christ honoring way is nothing but beautiful, right? And will result in nothing but beauty in your life. Is it hard sometimes? Yeah. Have I had to struggle through some stuff with some of these women? Have we had to have some hard conversations? Yeah, we have. But because we love each other the way Christ loves and the way Christ is asking us to love, I know when crap hits the fan, I've got people who will love me and support me and speak Jesus to me and over my family. So I think practically, I mean, I wouldn't want to live any other way, right?
For sure.
I don't want to do this alone.
Yeah, for sure. That's like, I was talking to Dara the other day, and I was just telling her, I've just been in a really difficult place. And I was just telling her, like, I just cannot get myself out of it. Like, I just can't snap out of the funk. I don't have my own strength anymore. Like, I just feel like I'm in a pit and I can't get out. Yeah. And she's like, well, hey, I got a shovel and we're going to dig together, and it's like, yep. I always tell John, like, there should be a book written about friendship like this, Christian friendship where, like, we're going to do it. We're going to dig each other out. We're going to grab the baby and we're going to, make you a meal and all these different things. Yeah, I'm with you. I cannot imagine living life any other way, especially the way, the world looks right now and the way that it's continuing to look. Like, I just cannot imagine how do you not do it? How do you not live with that kind of mentality and purpose? Because not only do we need people to show up for us, but there's people that are hurting all around us, and they don't have the hope that we have in Christ, or they do, and they can't see through the muck, and that's okay. Like, it happens. And I can't tell you how many arguments I've had with God in the last couple of years. Like, literally, like, I'm surprised I'm still saved arguments, like, are you kidding?
I tell my friends all the time, like, I just yell at God a lot in my car. We have very loud, very intense conversations sometimes while I'm driving in the car. Like, and I think you need people that you can talk about that with, like when we were just in Haiti, I had one of those moments. I was literally losing it. I was mad. I was even swearing. If you know me, that's not super shocking, but I was really, really upset. And I messaged Dara about it, and I told her I was so angry. And she was like, okay, I see you. I feel you. I love you. I know you're hurting. I know you're confused. I know this, I know that, but this is truth. Thing. And it's like, you need that. Like, I need that, because otherwise God only knows. I mean, what would I do? I don't know, but it's like, it's just so vital to have people in your life and to be that person, to say, hey, like, let's dig this out together. Let's, let's figure this out. Let's, and just to be able to be so honest with somebody that they're not going to judge you, and they're going to be like, hey, like, I was just yelling at God in the car the other day, it's just reality. Like, yes. Yeah. You got any final thoughts? I don't know.
You always have so much good stuff to say. You're always going to be one of my favorite people on the planet. I mean, I kind of silently hope God calls you to San Antonio. Hey, listen, there's a lot of Haitians down here.
I know.
It's like,
hey, my yes is on the table. So you just pray to Jesus. You just work that out with him.
I'm going to work on that.
I think back even when you asked me, you sent me these questions and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about? I feel like there's this weird mix of so many things have happened in my life. I just don't even know. But I immediately thought back to the first time I was in Haiti. I was a fresh 16 and it was a year
shortly after the
earthquake. Mm-hmm. A year after the 2000, I think it was 2012, right? When the earthquake was? No, that's not right.
2010.
10. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it would have
been
11 when you and Joe went for the first time.
Yep.
It's been almost 11 years. 11 years in February.
Nuts. That's nuts.
So crazy.
So crazy. So I think back to the first time Cody, I just called Joe Cody. Joe and I ended up at the Home for the Dying and the Destitute. And man, I was terrified. I had no idea what I was walking into. And I mean, I was 16. I'd been to Africa, but it was like, that was a pretty comfortable missions trip. We did a lot of painting on that mission, which was great. I loved it. I loved it. But we were there to like aid a missionary couple working at a school. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a whole lot of like hands-on in the streets mission work ourselves. It was more helping a school get ready for kids to come back to school. Anyways, so in Haiti, and I just remember we were at this, it's really a hospice center is really what it was. And this at the time was severe because it was just a year after the earthquake. So things were still really bad there. And I remember walking into the room where I was told I was going to give massages to people. And as a 16-year-old, I was extremely uncomfortable with that. I don't know these people.
You want me to what?
Exactly. So anyways, I remember walking in, I was praying, I was seeing the other women doing what we were supposed to be doing. And I walked out of the room. I walked out of the room and I found a little balcony and I was looking over Haiti and I just started losing it, like just bawling, like, God, like, what are you doing? I can't do that. I'm not capable of it. I'm 16. I don't know. I don't speak their language, whatever, like just freaking out. And I remember for some reason I was holding a bottle of nail polish. I think sometimes they like having their nails painted too. So I think that's kind of why I had that. And I just remember him so clearly saying to me, like, Kaydra, you can paint some nails. That's all you got to do right now. All you got to do is walk back over there and paint some nails. That's all I'm asking of you, is to go paint some nails. And I said, okay, Lord, I can do that. That I can do. So I sat there and had a conversation with God for a little while before I worked up the whatever to do this. But I turned around, I went back around the corner and God was so sweet. There was a group of probably, 10 little girls with big smiling faces. And they just surrounded me because they saw the nail polish and they were braiding my hair and I was painting nails. And one little girl, I'd paint her nails and then she'd go around the corner and scrape it off. And then she'd come back because she wanted to paint it again. So I just remember so clearly the Lord saying, like, just do this, because I think in my mind, I was like, Lord, this is too much. Like, I can't do all this. I can't do all this. It's too much for me. And he just so clearly said, like, just do this.
Yeah,
and
just do something. Like,
yes, you got to do something. So I think I just try to live with that in my life. Like when things feel big or overwhelming, or I don't know where to start, or I can't do that, or Lord, that feels too big for me, or that feels too scary, or whatever it may be. I just go back to that moment and I'm just like, I can paint some nails, and I think I just try to live that way every single day. Like Lord, what is today for you? Like, what am I going to do today for you? Whether it be, sometimes it's simple and sometimes it's big. Sometimes it's really big and really uncomfortable. But sometimes it's, I don't know, very simple.
Well, and at some point, yes, and you've been back to Haiti plenty of times. So at some point, yes. I know that you've gone past the nail painting.
Yes. I should have.
Yes. But I do love that. Like, I love that God is gracious with us. And of course, like, there's always a time and a place where if he were to say to you in that moment, I know you well enough to know that if he were to say to you, Kaydra, yes, you can do it. I will give you the strength to get in there and do it. You would have done it.
Right.
But it also just shows like his mercy for you and his love for you, that he was like, all right, like, okay, we'll take this a step at a time.
Yep.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. He knows
I remember hearing about that all those years ago.
Woo, that was a moment. Yeah. So I think that's just, just think of, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling like you don't know where to start, one, remember, like you said, God is gracious and he only gives us what he knows we can do, right? I mean, sometimes through his strength, sometimes he asks us to do beyond what we feel we can do, trusting in the fact that he will provide.
Yes, exactly.
But also know that if today you're feeling overwhelmed and lost and confused, like, just look for the one, like, what is one tiny thing, what is one thing you can do to start taking steps in the direction of living upstream.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love it. I love chatting about this with you. I think that it's so necessary for to have these kind of conversations, like I wish that when I was a young mom, that people talked to me about this kind of stuff. I can't really remember a time ever where somebody said, like, I mean, I don't even think, I think I just was like so busy. I mean, we obviously have a load of kids that I just got through it, and I wish that I would have had people that would say these things to me in my life and just said like, even just the idea of like, just another diaper, just right now it's just one more day. Right now it's just nurse this time, and not that you want to approach everything with this dreadful, like, oh God, I got to do it one more time. But at the same time, like sometimes you like, I'll look at my day sometimes and I'm like today, okay, I got to finish doing FAFSA stuff for Dorian and I got to dig out all these documents because we got to finish submitting his application to A&M and I got to make sure that the kitchen's clean and the birthday table is decorated. And oh my goodness, like I got to look halfway decent because I'm about to film with Kaydra. Like there can be so many things. And if you look at the whole, it can, I mean, you can drown. I mean, I'm also like, oh my goodness, like my laundry is piling up and this is happening, and oh my goodness, the doorbell just rang and the dog just puked on the floor, like it just can be so much. But if you can just take it like one moment at a time and say like, okay, like right now it's coloring with the kid. Yep. And then right now, okay, let's go make dinner together, and just being faithful in all of those mundane things and just saying like, okay, God, how can I do this as if I'm doing it for you? Yeah. And I do believe that when we are faithful with those things, that's when we have more. And I seriously, like, I don't at all regret many, many, many years of mom is my number one job. Like, I just don't regret it. I don't, I mean, time flew by so quickly. And sure, like I feel like I'm probably like a fairly capable human being. Like there's things that I could have done outside of that. But like, today I was like, thinking about Callista's birthday and thinking about Ayana's next month and just being like, wow, like truly the greatest thing that I've done outside of loving Jesus, trying to love my husband, even when I don't want to, and loving my kids and showing them that they matter. Like what else could be more important? It's like, I look at some of the kids that, don't have that. Yeah. And I ache for them, because it's like, I just cannot imagine enduring this world 2020 right now as a young person and not having that steady, I know my mom's got my back. I know that my mom, at the end of the day, I'm her priority, whether that means it's when she's done working from 9 to 5 or because she's here with me all the time. Either way, just knowing like my mom's got my back. I just think, oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine not having that, and especially in this day and age, where the world is seriously crazy. So
literally crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah.
I am certain that all you have had to say is going to be super encouraging for probably lots of mamas out there, all 10 that probably listen to us. I'm certain we'll be moved. But I'm glad because I seriously told Ben right away. I was like, okay, I want to talk to Kaydra because I just, it's like, I know that you have big dreams and that you are insanely capable and insanely talented, and that God has lots of big plans for your life. And that can be so confusing when in the moment, the big plan for your life is raising really rad kids, you know, and that can be some days.
Yeah. It's sometimes confusing, but
very. But I can assure you, as somebody who, I mean, obviously Ox is still only 10 and Gospel and Worthy will likely be with us forever or with one of the kids. You know, it happens fast. I know people hate when people say that, but it does. Like, how am I a grandma in like less than 2 months? I'm a grandma. Like what? A grandma? A grandma. Like what?
It'll be fantastic.
It is going to be amazing. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah. I cannot wait. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like it should be here yet. Like I'm not this old. Yeah. You know, like Ayana's not that old. You know, like it's crazy how fast it all happens. But